Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this weekly AgWeather update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Well, here we are at the end of a month, and I thought it would just be a good exercise to get a quick look back at what October delivered, because it was kind of a interesting split on the month. The first 3 weeks were really dominated by a pattern that favored something like this. Deep trough north of Hawaii built into a large ridge. This was a type of ridge we call a Rex block. Even though it looks like an omega, there's actually a low here. So we had this high over low pattern, and this drove a deeper trough into the eastern part of the United States. And that was one of the big reasons why we saw such a cold first 3.5 weeks of the month of October. It takes a long time once a blocking pattern sets up to get it undone. In fact, the definition of a block is when the jet stream pattern gets stuck for at least 10 days. And it was like that for 3 weeks. Now, what it did was it drove our precipitation pattern to be very dry under the larger ridge to the west, dry into the midsection of the country where the flow was coming out of the northwest. But we did at times see above normal rains early in the month of October here in northern South Carolina, getting into Virginia. All right. Now, on the temperature side of this, it was very cold. It was one of our coldest Octobers on record, and I'll be looking forward to seeing the actual statistics from NOAA and the National Weather Service on the statewide temperature ranks for their data set. But as you can see, for those first 3 weeks of October, very hot west and very cold, centered on the Appalachian Mountains where that trough was really located. Well, that pattern's gone, and it's been gone now for about 7 or 8 days. And this is how it currently looks. The Pacific jet stream is open, it is flowing, and that's going to be where all the action is. It's just going to be the inverse of what we saw at the beginning of October. So systems are going to continue to enter into the Pacific Northwest. We're going to see deeper troughs coming off of the Rocky Mountains. We're going to have a preferred storm track that's going to run relatively far to the north, and that's important for us to understand because that's going to limit our chances of getting precipitation from the main branches of the jet stream. Now, I'll give you more detail on that in just a few seconds. But the first system we're going to keep an eye on, though, is this one right here. And there's actually a lead wave that came through my home state of Illinois yesterday. You see it right there? And that's one we're going to be watching here in the very near term. So, how much rain did we get over the last 7 days as this pattern flipped at the end of the month of October? Well, quite a bit from Texas all the way through the Great Lakes. And you can see here that this is a big chunk of the Mississippi River Basin, which have been so very dry. We've had a lot of problems getting flow down the Mississippi, especially from southern Illinois all the way down to the mouth of the Mississippi, where barge traffic is critical this time of year. So we were relatively dry over the last week, everything here in the Carolinas, but this is where the main rainfall came through. And I'm going to show you what this did to kind of this national drought picture. So we currently, because of when the drought monitor was released, have 84.5% of the lower 48 in some form of drought. And that is the most since the inception of the drought monitor. But that was released last Tuesday. Okay, you don't get the map until Thursday, but it was released last Tuesday. And up until that point, look how dry things were in this area. Well, that rain I just showed you right here that came in took this map and ate a big hole in it like that. And we went over drier. And it was drier still in the eastern Corn Belt, drier in the north, central, and western Corn Belt, but a lot of rainfall came right in through this particular area. Now, of course, we've this Mississippi River issue. I just want to show you the latest data from Memphis. So we're going to come here to the AHPS data. This is where we get the USGS river gauge information. And I'm going to hover right over Mississippi River at Memphis and just show you that it has come up about 3 feet almost. I guess I call that 2 feet. And it's going to take a lot longer to get it back up to above its low stage, which is 5 feet. So we're still, what would that be? 12 feet below low stage. So the Mississippi River is making a slow recovery. That's what we want. We don't want it to all of a sudden fill back up because that would result in flooding. But things are starting to move. Now, we kind of give you that national perspective on things just to get here. This is how the pattern's setting up. So like we said, there's this trough that's ejecting into the midsection of the country. There's multiple systems coming into the northwest. We've got chances of rain today. But overall, we look at this next 7 to 8 days, we see mild conditions and we see a little bit drier conditions. We want to ask, is that going to last us through fall? Because this new pattern shift is breaking away almost the exact opposite of what we had the first 3 weeks of October. So that's what we need to get talking about here. First of all, again, this is our next week's worth of rainfall. Let's see what we got going on today. So to do that, I'm going to go right to the high-res NAM model. Let's park this out here about 9 o'clock this morning. So what you're going to see is that first of these waves is coming right in here through the Ohio River Valley. You see its front lining up right here on the Appalachian Mountains. Well, that front's going to pass over the mountains, and that means tonight, when your kids are out there trying to trick or treat, we do have chances for some scattered rain, kind of between Raleigh and getting over to the Appalachian Mountains. That's where it's first going to be. Then getting through the evening, just a lot of scattered showers throughout North Carolina, throughout Virginia, and pockets of South Carolina. So long story short, tonight, I would just grab a little umbrella before I ran out with the kids to go trick-or-treating. But you'll notice that first system pulls through by 7 a.m. on Tuesday morning. And then after that, all the action goes back west again. So we end up getting through the middle part of this week, relatively dry, big area of high pressure sitting right here. And so our early week precipitation chances are about the only thing we're going to see here. All the action is going to come back to the west. Now, to show you what's going on here, take a look at this. I think this is fascinating. We're going to watch these deep troughs of low pressure just keep digging into the western United States. And what's interesting is there is a wave, okay? Do you remember this one? Let's go back to it. See this one right here? I want you to watch what happens to it. So that would take us here. Ready? There it is by Tuesday morning. Now that wave gets caught underneath the larger ridge. So here's the ridge. That's the wave that's over Texas this morning. This is the big feature. Watch where this one goes. Ready? As we play this forward, it ends up coming out here, just kind of north and east of the Bahamas, and then it stays there. We had a wave break event. That's what we call that. So while deep troughs, this is all the way to next Saturday, keep digging into the west and injecting in the southern plains, we have this feature here, trapped underneath this larger ridge. And this is technically a blocking feature, which means we need to see how long it sticks around, because it's there by next Sunday, getting into Monday, and possibly out there to Tuesday and Wednesday. And so we want to know, are we ever going to pull this back north? So maybe to see the end effect of it, let's go right to the European model and run this one out. So through Monday and Tuesday, we've already seen this is our chance tonight for the scattered showers. That pulls on through. And then after that, we can play this quickly. Just keep your eye here on North Carolina. That's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, getting into Sunday, and Monday. I mean, there was nothing. We just saw big systems coming into the northwest. Look at this one here. Come back. This is one I'm very concerned about, delivering some very heavy rain late this week. Friday, Saturday, severe storm risk in the central part of the United States. But that system lifts. See, it's moving all the way up here to like Minneapolis by the time we get to Sunday morning. And what we're going to notice out of this is that for the most part, these systems are moving away from North Carolina. So we're drier after the rainfall tonight. Now, you see the moisture coming around here? Now, I'm way out there. This is next Monday going forward. I'll have to keep an eye on this to see if in week 2 we get some of the moisture delivered farther to the north for us with this particular system. Because at this time of year, I just don't want to see drought developing. I want to see good soil moisture recovery throughout fall, winter, and early spring. That always sets us up for a good year next year for ag. So that wave break event, if you'd like to see it in a different way, take a look. Watch this one right here. See this trough? Okay. Digs through Texas. Now, can you see it? The flow, the ridge, lows right here over the Ohio River Valley. And it just breaks off right here. The wave breaking event is happening right at that point. So this is going to go south. And what's important about the position of that trough is that the upstream waves have to go over it. They have to ride on that ridge. And that's what's given us that drier signal. Now, what I'm waiting to see is if by next Monday, we start to see this getting pulled back toward the north. At this point, it doesn't seem to be doing that. So let's take a look at what this means. You get out there to day 10, it's still sitting here. The flow is going to our north. And that's why we do see, if it does get pulled north into week 2, better chances of rain. But if it doesn't, and this is what I want to stress, if we don't see that low getting pulled north like this, then this is way too wet. And we have a drier outlook for the second week of November. So our first week of November, after today, dry. Second week, if this doesn't move north, we're drier as well. All right, that's the setup we're currently in. Now, on the temperature side of it, here's Monday's temperatures. Now, we're a little cooler because of the system bringing in some of the rain. But as we get into Tuesday, look at that, normal temperatures. Look at the heat in the midsection of the country, though. That's coming our way. There's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're already warming up back up to the low 70s here by Friday. Getting into the weekend, 72, 74. This pattern is really just dumping the colder air west and building broader ridges east. Remember, our cutoff low is offshore at this point. So does that temperature pattern hang on for a while? Let's go look at the European ensemble. This is a 5-day sliding window of temperatures. As I play this out, there's a lot of warmth eastern half of the United States through the first full week and into the second week of the month of November. The coldest air is in the Canadian Prairie. It's over toward British Columbia. It's into the western United States, this whole region in through here. We tend to hang on to a bit of a warmer bias going all the way out there to the middle of the month. Now, that doesn't mean every day it's going to be warm. We actually will get with this setup fronts that do pass through, but it's not as though they're able to really just rip through delivering cold air. The pattern is a bit blocked up for us for that to occur. Now from here, let's look longer range. This is the newest long-range outlook from the European model from November the 10th to December the 10th. You see much above average precip west. You see active weather systems rolling through the central United States, but a drier track, drier than normal, going from Texas here to the mid-Atlantic. One of the big reasons for this is with this current setup in the jet stream, which is being driven by La Nina, this tends to be drier. I want to make a case for that, and then I'm going to give you an international update, and we'll wrap this up. So this is just to confirm the European model. This is the newest 3 to 4 week outlook, week 3, week 4 outlook, from the CPC, NOAA. And you see that they're very much in line with the pattern established by the European model. And a lot of what's being a lot of what is driving this pattern is seen right here in these trade winds. Now, you know that we're watching this La Nina. We're concerned that it's going to fade midwinter, okay? And what I'm stressing here is that right now it hasn't done that. These are the strong trades continuing to be forecast through the 14th of November. And you can see where they meet up with the westerly winds coming out of the Indian Ocean, and that meetup spot is right there. So that's a lot of MJO phase 6. You can even see that in the phase diagram. Take a look. The MJO is currently in phase 7. It's going to curl back around briefly into phase 8, but try to make a quick return back to phase 6. This is what we typically get in fall when there is a La Nina still strengthening. A lot of MJO, see, it's trying to come back to phase 6. And what that does is keeps troughs rolling through the Pacific Northwest and ridging events that keep setting up somewhere between the Mid-South and the Southeast. So if we have ridging events over us, this just tends to bring in a bit more mild air and tends to bring in less chances of precipitation. It's not that it won't precipitate, but that's the effect of these ridges. So I'm just trying to explain that upper level pattern and how it relates to La Nina. Now, a bit more information on La Nina. This is the current ocean temperature pattern, and this is one of the stronger La Ninas, of course, this summer lasting now into this fall that I've seen in my professional forecasting career. Other areas I'm watching. Cooler water showing up here. That's going to be important for Europe's winter. I'll finish with that today. And also some of the cooler water that's in the Gulf of Alaska. This is going to be important too for where the jet stream pattern sets up this winter. But this La Nina is still quite dominant. But some supporting evidence from our newest long-range forecasts continue to suggest that once we get past, the end of this year, the probability of La Nina seen in the blue bars continues to fade. And you can see here that by like January, February, March, INSO-neutral conditions in the gray bar will start to make its appearance, which means we're going to see the trade winds back off. We're going to see a shift around in the pattern in the middle of winter, and that's going to just change the front half of winter versus the back half of winter into two entirely different setups. For the East Coast, I think that either setup is going to give us better chances for moisture and possibly some pretty active systems rolling up the East Coast of the United States this year. This is what my forecast out of it. But do notice that once we start talking about next spring, April, May, and June, that we've got a possibility of the return of not only neutral conditions, but maybe we were talking about an El Nino-like summer. Not saying a full-blown El Nino summer, but just it might be returning. So what does all that mean for the near term? Let's talk about that at least. In November and December, while La Nina still has its grip, we historically have been drier than normal from the southern tier of the United States, and then especially down here from parts of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia. So this thing we're going into right now, this 3 to 4 week outlook where it does look drier, that's consistent with the fact that La Nina right now still has its grip. It's later we're watching it let go of its grip. This is also a very important story playing out in South America. Now this animation here, this is infrared satellite data. And what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to take you back to the beginning. We had some huge storms blowing up here. This is in Paraguay. There's another one going through Uruguay, which is this country right here. but those are all a part of a front that's advancing north. And the front started off all the way at the southern tip of Chile and Argentina and will finish later this week north of the Amazon. And as it goes through, it's really going to clear things out, but bring in some cold air. And we're going to have to watch this carefully. Buenos Aires province, which is here, one of the big ag-producing provinces of Argentina, which is this country, there's the risk that tomorrow morning, this area could have a frost event. Right now, the low temperatures are expected to be down there in that 1 to 3 degrees Celsius range, just barely above freezing. And what's important is they've struggled with drought, really, really nasty drought this year in parts of Argentina. Now, when you look over the next 15 days, when the front clears things out, things are going to be drier, like in Mato Grosso. And we don't want drier conditions here. If it stays wetter, they tend to plant faster. But still, the forecast keeps things drier down here into Argentina and parts of southern Brazil, despite that front coming through. What's interesting to see here is that the planting progress in Mato Grosso has been very fast. They've matched last year's pace. They're about 20% ahead of the 5-year average, which means the soybean crop went in very, very quickly, which means they'll be harvesting this soybean crop in December, late December and January, rather than January into February. That's just based upon the speed at which it went in. That will be important for when the safrinha crop grows in, which is mostly a corn crop. Normally, about 75% of the corn grown in South America is a safrinha or second crop. But we think this year, because of the change in acreage, more soybeans got planted as a first crop, which means maybe it'll be 80 to 85% of the total corn production will come second. So that's why a fade in this La Nina is very important come New Year. It could put real dry stress on the safrinha crop north. Okay, last couple things here. This is how wet October has been for Australia. If you're keeping an eye on this, parts of Western Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, some places have looked at the month of October in a 4 to 8 inch surplus of rainfall. And the issue here is that as we play this out over the next 10 days, even more rain is coming to eastern Australia, where they are very much flooded out right now. So we may be adding another 40 to 60 millimeters of rainfall. That's, you're looking at 1.5 to 2 inches of rain additional still coming into this area as they start this new month of November as well. So I just want to keep you up to date with that. A lot of extremely wet conditions in Australia to start their spring. But finally, I've been getting a lot of questions about Europe. Now, it is very warm there now and is expected to stay very warm there now. In fact, my parents are over there enjoying it, their first trip abroad now that they're in retirement. But I'm glad they're there now because there's concern later in the year that getting into December and beyond, there are some colder risks. With a fading La Nina, we need to watch a couple of other subseasonal things like the polar vortex, the North Atlantic blocking signals, because some of our long-range models, especially the Canadians, have been very aggressive with their modeling on going after a cold European midwinter. And that's going to place some major stresses on energy, just because the demand side of the equation could be higher than normal this year. So I will keep you up to date on these international issues as we go through our fall and into winter. But I hope you all have a good week, and we'll talk to you next Monday. Thank you.